I'm joined now by Karl Deeter and Juno McEnroe. Juno McEnroe, that is quite an extraordinary story about the brothel. What I love about it is that they banged on the door, thought it was a brothel, allegedly, were told it wasn't, and insisted that it was a brothel. You know, they wouldn't go away. Very damaging for the guards, isn't it?
It is, and if it's investigated fully, as we were told by a superintendent, it'll probably be another scandal that will rock the force after the back of the penalty point scandal, after the back of the Smithwick Tribunal, and disagreements over policing in Mayo with the Corrib gas. As you described, Keelan, one of the incidents that's been investigated over a number of these scandals is that some Gardaí who were at their Christmas party in Limerick earlier this month, a number of them approached a resident's door and insisted that they be allowed in and be brought to the prostitution. You can imagine, as we were talking earlier on, you know, the lead up to this time of year and people are getting ready for Christmas, opening your front door and two people standing there and
demanding a prostitute.
And the resident
might as well demand some drugs as well while they're at it. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that we have people who are police knocking on doors in the middle of the night demanding prostitutes. The people say we're not a brothel, and then later on apparently they walked out and the cops bet them up. So I mean, that's
it's all alleged now. We want to be very careful here.
I just say alleged.
There's nothing set in stone, but yeah, it could be quite a story.
And prostitution has become quite a problem in Limerick in recent months and years, and people have been concerned about the growing the problem of prostitution, which has been highlighted by local councillors and by TDs in the city, it says here.
Yeah. Well, listen, absolutely. Moving on from that one, I mean, I suppose the big story today is the Taoiseach's address last night. I know, Juno, you were covering it for the Examiner. What did you make of it?
I thought the address in its totality was quite low-key. It was a 7-minute address. It's not necessarily the best viewing for most people on a Sunday night.
Yeah, the viewing figures will be interesting when we get them.
They might be. They might be quite shocking as well, depending on what people were doing on the night. The Taoiseach, he didn't. It was more about politics, I think, than promises. He's saying very much that this is what the government have done and this is what they will do in the next few months, the next few years. But there was no specifics there, only that we will have 2 million people in employment by the end of the decade. That's a long way off for anybody at the moment who's out of work.
I heard McEnroe from Fianna Fáil on the radio earlier on saying that there's 1.9 million currently in employment. So he's really only promising an extra 100,000. Exactly,
which was the pledge by the government for the 2016, the end of this government's lifetime. So it seems we'll see more debate on the aftermath of the speech today. It seems that figure is now being pushed back to 2020. Because
it's unemployment is really the thing that is affecting people so harshly. I tell you what, we have a clip of the speech. We'll take a quick look at it and then we'll talk again.
I know that many people are struggling to make ends meet. I also know that for many of you, the recent improvements in the economic situation are not yet being felt in your daily lives. But it is now clear that your sacrifices are making a real difference. Ireland is now moving in the right direction. Our economy is starting to recover. While we still have far too many people out of work, jobs are being created. While borrowing is still too high, our public finances are moving towards a sustainable position. Internationally, our good name and our credibility have been restored.
So, Karl, you were obviously watching it too. What did you make of it? Has our good name been restored at this point?
I had to turn off the X Factor to tune in. I'd be interested to see the comparison between people who are watching one or the other. It's being built basically as new economic freedom. I think that's being a bit, you know, Jesuitical with the truth. Basically, the Troika are not going. We're still going to be left with two parts of it, which is the ECB and the EU Commission. As for the IMF, they might be leaving, but we're still going to have the post-programme monitoring from them. And in fact, the people who are going are the ones who had our back the most. The IMF were the ones calling for burning of bondholders. So it's almost like the good guys in the Troika are the ones that are now leaving. As regards the two pillars you spoke about, Pillar 1 is basically reiterating common sense. You don't spend more than you have. And Pillar 2 is straight out of the Troika playbook. The Troika will call it labour market activation. What a politician will call it is we need jobs. In other words, you've got to get people back working. And really there's a carrot and stick approach to that. The carrot approach is we give more training. The stick approach is financial defibrillation, where you cut welfare payments. And we don't really know which way they're going to go with that. So I think that the details that come out in this, you know, pathway to 2020 is really where it's all going to be at. As regards a statement of intent, I thought it was, it could have been probably stronger in terms of detail or the message that it's
I
sending.
suppose might be offering hostages to fortune then if you give too much detail. I mean, it's day one, really, working day one, coming out of the bailout.
And this has been part of a programme over the weekend as well. On Friday, we had the ministers out, the traps, all in government buildings, announcing that this was the end of the bailout. The Taoiseach's speech today, and then there will be that mid-term economic plan, which has been launched later in the week. As Karl rightly points out, that's where we'll see the nuts and bolts, probably where the more specific pledges to get people back in jobs and to get problems like the mortgage crisis dealt with.
Yeah,
it's important. Just one last thing is that all of this is predicated on economic growth, and there is a trend in developed economies that they struggle, even the good ones, to grow above 2% a year with regular occurrence, and that goes for the USA, it goes for everyone. So a lot of it, if it hinges on growth, you kind of have to discount where that can potentially bring you, because it's not a guaranteed thing to happen. The only thing you can control, for instance, is your expenditure. And that's why I think it may take more of a stick approach.
They have missed their growth projections for the last few years, haven't they? Although, again, Leo Varadkar was saying, we missed them, yeah, but it's still, we reached our other figures. You know, you can there's some leeway around it.
True. We've been incredibly consistent in missing the mark, and I think that that trend is set to continue. So we just have to hope that, in terms of missing it, that maybe we surpass it rather than miss it the way we've been doing so far.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, we could always start digging money up. It seems 1.2 million in dirty money being dug up from 6 feet under. It's an extraordinary story. That. Are you looking at that, Juno?
Yeah, this is a find in Limerick, if you want to call it that. Late last night, the story broke, and it was that over 1 million in cash was dug up in Limerick. This is thought to be linked to organised crime. Not surprisingly, it's not just money lying around. And I think it was something like 6 foot under. And when the Gardaí arrived at the scene, they found one man who was drying out the cash. So laundering is one way of describing it.
Here we have it here. I mean, it's hard to believe they actually had a tumble dryer with them, did they? I mean, suspects they were actually laundering cash, and well, according to that paper, they did. Yeah,
it's amazing. I mean, because money laundering is about making ill-gotten gains into clean, and it goes through the stages of placement, layering, and integration. But they actually were using
drying the cash.
You know, I think instead of buying a lotto ticket, I'm going to get a shovel and a ticket on a train to Limerick. You know, because if this is the kind of stuff that's lying
randomly, see what you come across. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who was arrested. I mean, they've released somebody on that, haven't they? Or well, I suppose pending investigation.
Probably the guy driving the digger.
Now, what about the 12 pubs of Christmas? I mean, I don't know if either of you were in town over the weekend, but it was extraordinary watching people doing that. People are just destroyed with it.
I have to admit now, I have been given for the season a very dodgy, wildly colourful jumper, which I've yet to even wear besides
Juno, you could have worn it
put
today.
on in a pub. Well, it's quite early in the week already, Keelan, we'll see. But I'm sure, as most viewers know, at this time of year, it's quite regular that we see people out in the pubs wearing lights, wearing Christmas jumpers. And Una Mullally in the Irish Times goes through this in details and questions, is this more to do with Irish hedonism, or is it just people having fun? And she puts a very difficult question, I suppose, because most people who see these people on the street would just criticise them. But she says maybe we should let them have fun at the same time.
Yeah, it's the people you see at 2 a.m. on their own, hanging around, falling over bollards. Like, they're the people.
I guess you see them anyway. I mean, the Christmas jumper thing, I don't know. I personally never went for it because I spend most of the year badly dressed, so I don't need to re-enhance that. But you know, if I was to do 12 pubs, it'd be followed by 12 days on dialysis. And I think that the message of excessive drinking is one that you've always got to be aware of. Like, obviously, it's legal to drink. It's also legal to hit yourself in the face with a brick if that's what you want to do. Is it a good idea or not is the question. And the point that she makes that I think is just absolutely prescient is that as a nation, we're kind of like a tearaway teenager. And that actually goes for more than just the attitude towards drinking. And I think it actually is about our politics, about the fact that we've made mistakes as we're starting to mature in our economy. And in the whole article, while she's maybe decrying the way that we approach Christmas and celebrating, that line, I'll tell you, that to me just absolutely hit home. She touched into something very important there. That's
really interesting. It is a very interesting opinion piece, and actually we're going to have more on alcohol over the course of the programme. But for now, Juno and Karl, thanks a million, both of you, for coming in to us this morning. And now it's time for the sports news, and Ivan Quillen is here. Ivan.
Thanks very much, Keelan.